Hello, and welcome back to the Striha Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Parker Striha, and on today's episode, we are going to be discussing 5 possible landing spots for James Harden if he does end up getting traded from the Brooklyn Nets. I'm by no means a professional, but I do love talking about sports, so thank you for joining me. Reports came out last week that James Harden has become upset with the Brooklyn Nets and may want to be moved. And although the Nets are very adamant about not moving him, there's only so much they can do if a player of Harden's stature is set on leaving, because he could sit out, he could stop playing very hard, he can do really whatever he has to do to force the Nets' hand in moving him somehow. So I think if I'm the Nets, I have to play this very safe and do whatever is best for the team, because if Harden's not going to play hard and he's going to be detrimental to the team's future, I have to get rid of him. But James Harden, in my mind, is still one of the best players in the league, despite having what could be considered a down year for him. So I think if I'm any of the other teams in the league, I'm calling the Brooklyn Nets. I'm trying to see what they want for James Harden and trying to work something out, because he can easily be a contributor for a playoff team and he could will a team into the playoffs, which could be huge for some of these teams that are still in a playoff drought, like the Minnesota Timberwolves. With Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant both really not playing very much this season, I know Kevin Durant just recently got hurt, but Kyrie Irving hasn't been playing a lot this year due to COVID restrictions. Harden has been the Nets' leader in every major statistic since Durant's injury. In 44 games this year, Harden has been averaging almost 23 points, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists, with 1.3 steals and almost a block to go along with it. Those numbers are nothing compared to his final full season in Houston, but he also hasn't been fully healthy himself all year. I personally think that a fully healthy and available Brooklyn Nets team can do some serious damage in the playoffs. Kevin Durant is arguably the best player in the league when he's healthy, and Kyrie Irving and James Harden are both former All-NBA players, with Harden actually being a former MVP. This team should be a favorite to win the NBA Finals, but the key word is should. As of right now, the Nets would be lucky to even make it out of the first round of the playoffs. They've really been in a downward spiral lately. I believe as I'm recording this, they are on an 8-game losing streak, so it's not really looking good for them. So if James Harden is set on leaving the Nets now or at the end of the season, it would probably be wise for the Nets to try to gauge the interest around the league to see what they could get for Harden. Getting anything in return for him now would be a lot better than him leaving in the offseason and they get nothing in return. A team that has been linked to Harden trade rumors all season has been the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers general manager Daryl Morey was the general manager of the Houston Rockets when Harden played there, so there's already a connection between the two. Reports have also came out that Daryl Morey is hell-bent on getting Harden to the Sixers. I mean, if I'm any team in the league that doesn't have Harden, I would want Harden on my team, so that's not really surprising. Now, although I don't think that the Nets will actually trade James Harden, I thought it would be fun to create some mock trades that could realistically happen, but I don't think will. Trade 1 has the Philadelphia 76ers receiving James Harden and the Brooklyn Nets receiving Ben Simmons, Tyrese Maxey, Danny Green, a 2022 first-round pick, and a 2024 first-round pick. This is easily the most likely trade to happen. The two teams have been linked since the Harden rumors were first announced. The Sixers need to get rid of Ben Simmons, and they should 100% get rid of him if they can get James Harden back. Simmons can start every game for the Nets when Kyrie is unavailable, and he can be a big defensive asset along a healthy Kevin Durant. He also has the flexibility to play power forward when Kyrie is available, which is arguably the best case scenario for the Nets. Danny Green is only in this trade for money reasons, but he can also be a veteran presence for the Nets that can put up 10 to 15 points in a tough situation if need be. He also has guard and forward flexibility that could be huge in the playoffs. Tyrese Maxey is one of the more promising young players in the league and could also be a solid point guard for the Nets. James Harden would end up going to Philly and would instantly slide into one of their starting guard positions. He would provide a valuable veteran presence and scoring ability to a team that hopes to win a championship this year. He'd also provide a valuable asset to a team that doesn't want to waste Joel Embiid's prime, because if they fail again this year, I can easily see Joel Embiid becoming upset and wanting out of Philly. I don't think it'll happen, but you never know. It's a business. You got to do what's best for you as a player, and I don't think he wants to be a part of an organization that gets so close every year but ends up failing ultimately. Trade 2 has the Sacramento Kings receiving James Harden and Paul Millsap, while the Brooklyn Nets receive De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley III, Maurice Harkless, a 2022 top 5 protected first-round pick, a 2025 first-round pick, and a 2025 second-round pick via the Portland Trail Blazers. Simply put, Sacramento Kings are bad. No one wants to sign there, and that's a really bad thing if you're a Kings fan, player, executive, or anyone involved with the team. It's really hard to be a successful franchise when no one wants to sign there, and no one that gets drafted wants to stay. Bringing in a guy like James Harden could change that, however. If Harden would decide to re-sign with Sacramento, which is probably extremely unlikely, it could entice other players to come join him to help turn the Kings around. It's also already been decided that the Nets and Paul Millsap are going to try to find another home for him, and they do just that in this trade. Kyrie Irving has a player option this offseason that he may decline so he can go play somewhere with looser COVID restrictions. With that being said, bringing in a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who is still extremely young and has extremely high potential, could be groundbreaking for the Nets. He is great on the defensive side of the ball and brings the Nets some much-needed juice. Marvin Bagley has expressed his desire to leave the Kings, and I think a move would be beneficial for his development. He could go to Brooklyn and be a contributor instantly, but he also wouldn't be expected to be the number 2 or number 3 guy like he was in his early years in Sacramento. The Kings' picks that Brooklyn would be receiving are also extremely valuable and will be for the foreseeable future. Trade number 3 has the Oklahoma City Thunder receiving James Harden and the Brooklyn Nets receiving Derek Favors, Darius Bazley, Ty Jerome, a 2022 first-round pick via the Phoenix Suns, a 2023 first-round pick via Denver, and a 2023 second-round pick via the Washington Wizards. James Harden is back where it all started for him. The Thunder decide to bring back one of their former Big Three that can come in and instantly be a mentor for their young guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey. He can be a veteran leader that this young team doesn't currently have. The Thunder don't really have to give up a lot to get Harden either. They're probably going to trade or buy out Derek Favors anyway, and Darius Bazley and Ty Jerome most likely aren't in the future plans for them. The Thunder also have a plethora of first-round draft picks that they can get rid of whenever and however they want. The Nets are a team that could really use first-round picks also after they got rid of plenty to acquire James Harden last season. Trade number 4 has the New York Knicks receiving James Harden and the Brooklyn Nets receiving Julius Randle, Kemba Walker, Obi Toppin, a 2022 top 8 protected first-round pick, a 2023 lottery protected first-round pick via the Dallas Mavericks, and a 2025 first-round pick. Simply put, the New York Knicks need a superstar that can help bring other superstars to town. The Knicks play in one of the biggest markets in the league, but they've been disappointing for as long as I can remember. Despite having what could be considered a down year, James Harden is still one of the best players in the NBA and should be regarded as such. He would go to the Knicks and can single-handedly turn them into a playoff team this year. The Knicks did make the playoffs last season, largely due to Julius Randle's most improved player season, but they aren't even in the playoff picture as of when I'm recording this, which is really bad. Randle recently has been a part of rumors stating that he wants out of New York, so this is actually a win-win for him and the Knicks. His trade value has seemingly been dropping this season, but he could still be valuable for a Nets playoff run. Kemba Walker could be a starting or backup point guard for the games that Kyrie Irving isn't available, and he can still come out and drop 15 to 20 points on any given night. Obi Toppin is only in his second year and has sky-high potential. He could be extremely valuable to the Nets in a potential small ball center role if the need arises. Trade 5 has the Minnesota Timberwolves receiving James Harden and the Brooklyn Nets receiving D'Angelo Russell, Taurean Prince, Jordan McLaughlin, a 2022 lottery-protected first-round pick, a 2022 second-round pick via the Washington Wizards, a 2024 first-round pick, and a 2026 first-round pick. This is probably the most unlikely trade of the 5, but I wouldn't rule it out. The Timberwolves are finally in line to make the playoffs, but they seriously lack playoff experience. James Harden is a guy that has been to the conference finals multiple times in his career, so he can make up for that lack of playoff experience. He would also give Karl Anthony Towns a veteran guard that he can rely on to get it done in all facets of the game. I also think that if the Timberwolves want to keep Towns in Minnesota for his entire career, they need to show that they are willing to make splash moves to make the team a contender or at least better than a bottom feeder. D'Angelo Russell also goes back to the team where he had his breakout season in 2018. I think the city loves Russell and would be more than glad to have him back. The Nets also get multiple first-round picks that could be extremely valuable depending on how the Timberwolves play in the future. I'm your host, Parker Striha, and this has been the Striha Sports Podcast. Our random sport fact of the day is that UFC heavyweight Francis Ngannou holds the record for the hardest punch ever recorded. His punch is equivalent to 96 horsepower, which is equal to being hit by a Ford Escort going full speed. As always, thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to hit that notification bell for whenever a new video gets posted.